Hey people, welcome to Leo the Lefty. I'm going to do a quick video for you guys today. It's my afternoon off, so I'm going to see what I can do. Um, I'm going to work on Liath Mor, which is Gaelic for the big gray man. And he's sort of like a Scottish folklore, Scottish maybe Bigfoot, but probably not. Anyway, as I said, Liath Mor means gray man. And coincidentally, probably 2 or 3 years ago, I drew this. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's still in pencil, so while I tell you about what's going on, I'm going to outline it in pen. I use the Uniball um, pens. They're great. Sorry, very unprepared. Anyway, so I will finish the outline and then I'll color these in. A few years ago I started making just like weird borders on paper and everything, and when I was doing this story I remembered this one that I made, and it kind of goes along with the description of the gray man, so I thought, hell, why not? Let's do it. So with that all being said, let's get into it. So the Liath Mor is supposed to kind of hang out on Ben Macdui, which is a mountain range in the Highlands of Scotland. And let's see here. It's the highest peak of the... I'm so sorry for my pronunciation. Some of these are really hard, like in my head. I'm pronouncing it great, but then when I say it out loud, I'm just fucking it up. So, apologies to anybody. I hope I don't offend anybody. So, Ben Macdui is the second highest peak in Scotland, and it is part of the Cairngorms mountain range. So, let's get into it. First, we'll start with the description of the gray man, but it's really weird because, like, when we get into the storytelling, he really hasn't been seen that much. More people hear him than see him, but there's a bit of a description. So he's very tall, very thin. He has dark skin and dark hair covering his body, according to some accounts, which is why they kind of associate him with being a Bigfoot, but then there's other accounts that says he just has like gray skin. It was kind of hard to find a whole lot of information on this, but I thought it was pretty cool and I wanted to do it because I love Scotland. Love it. So I thought, why not? As I said, resources on this were kind of few and far between, but I'm gonna tell you about what I came up with. Let's get his little fingies. And this doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm sure that you probably can't even see it. And of course, this is when my phone decides to go off. I haven't got a text all day long, but as soon as I start recording, everybody wants to talk to me. That makes me sound like I'm super popular, and I'm not. By everybody, I mean like 2 people. So, envious, I know. Like, everybody wants to be Leo the Lefty. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You don't want to be me. Alright. I'm gonna get the tallest fella out of the way here. So he's got very broad shoulders and very long arms. Now, I don't know if you'd consider these broad shoulders or not, but just keep in mind, I drew this probably 2 to 3 years ago. Never even heard of Liath Mor at the time, so that's not what I was trying to draw. I just thought that this would be kind of an appropriate piece to do while I tell you this tale. And let me get these little fellas outlined here and we'll get into it. So it does sound kind of like There's only been a few sightings in modern times, but I can imagine, um, before, like maybe early 1800s or so, it was a more prevalent um, tale and everything. The cool thing about Scotland is, like Scotland and Ireland and things like that, is they haven't lost their folklore to time. They continue to tell it, and I think that's just wonderful and lovely. As a very boring American, like, you know, not to sound unpatriotic, but Americans have a way of losing touch with their culture, especially, when ancestors migrate here and then they generations assimilate in, and we just tend to lose our culture from where we were originally, which is kind of a bummer. But we pick up new culture. It's just part of people moving around the world, I guess, which is not really a topic I intended to even go into during this, but seems appropriate. I've never done like a DNA test or anything. I'm kind of a paranoid weirdo when it comes to giving up my private information and my uh, DNA makeup and everything. But according to some in my family, we have some Scottish roots, some German roots, some Irish, English, yada yada blah blah. I tend to think of myself as probably a mutt. Um, there's no purity in my blood. There's no purity in anybody's blood. If you think pure blood is a thing, what you're thinking of is inbreeding. And that's extremely dangerous. So anybody who's proud of their pure blood is proud that they're, probably their cousin, grandpa, and uncle are all the same person. Just saying. Anybody who flaunts having pure blood, honey, pure blood is inbred. Congratulations. And there's nothing wrong with being a mutt. There's nothing wrong with having, ancestors from all over. It's fine. And there's no need to worry about keeping your blood pure and, your legacy living on and blah, 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 blah. It's kind of ridiculous in a world with over 8 billion people that some people are still concerned with that. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent I had no intentions of going on, so we'll get to the story. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to read from my notes while I'm doing these outlines of these little fellas, so I'm just jabbering at the moment to stall, pretty much. And I'm almost done, so we'll get to the tail here pretty soon, and hopefully by then most of the ink will be dry and I can go through and color. I love these creepy little dudes. I started scribbling them some years ago, and again, like I said, no particular reason. I just draw what I draw when I feel like drawing it, and my taste is sort of all over the place, so sometimes I draw some really weird shit. I don't apologize for it. I'm a really weird person. There we go. Are they starting to show up on camera a little better, I hope? Yeah, they sort of blend in. I had one of my lights go out and I haven't replaced it yet, so it's kind of dark over here in this area. I bought, when I first started this, I had 2 ring lights and then like an LED desk lamp, and one of the ring lights took a shit immediately, and I think after my first video, and it just won't come back on. And then not long after that, my LED desk lamp took a shit. So that's that. And I'll tell you, I have incredibly bad luck with like electronics and things like that. So when I try to buy anything, it usually doesn't go well. Especially any purchase over $100, but electronics especially. Like I won't get into it, but I bought a new fridge on December 2nd. It just came yesterday after about 3 weeks of being jacked around by Home Depot and them telling me that, you know, it would be here before Christmas. Well, it didn't get here till the day after Christmas. So that's what I'm talking about. Every time I try to do something, something else comes along and just fucks it up, because that is just my luck. And then when we got the fridge, it was literally half an inch too big to fit through my door, so we had to do all kinds of other wrangling just to get it in the damn house. And we did that about 10 minutes ago. So y'all are just hot on the heels of my refrigerator victory that only took nearly a month to become victorious over. If you have luck like mine, I'm sorry, but at least you know what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the last little fella I have to outline. Oh, last and a half. I've got one little half fella down here, and then I'll get into the actual fable of Liath Mor. And, you know, I hope I'm saying that right. It was really hard for me to find pronunciations online because they all translate into English, which is like, yeah, it means gray man. Great, that's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking how, you know, it's actually said, not how stupid, soft, pink Americans say it. But again, I digress. We've only got what Google will give us, you know, or other search engines. I don't know a damn thing about computers, so I don't even know if I'm talking about the right thing here. Doesn't matter. Last little fella, isn't he so cute? Over here in the corner hiding. Okay. So, I'm going to give that a second to dry. Alright, so most often the creature remains unseen in the fog. And you don't really see him, but you hear him. And he's got like these crunching footsteps when he's like, it sounds like something big walking across like the gravel, the rocks on the ground and everything like that. And it seems like people seem to report that the footsteps seem to be following you while you're walking, which is creepy as shit, but also kind of cool. So the first documented sighting. So I'm going to start with the first documented sighting, and then we'll kind of time travel back in time to whenever it was. There were sightings, but nobody bothered to write it down. They were just like, whoa, I saw some crazy shit. And people were like, yeah, it's Scotland in the Highlands. You're going to see all kinds of crazy shit, you know. But this is the first documented sighting. So this is the first time somebody bothered to write that shit down. You know, and thank God they did, because here today where I'm telling you about it. So the first sighting is in 1925, and almost 100 years ago. Woohoo! And a man named Norman Colley was up on the summit, hiking and all that. He was a hiker, he was a professor, it didn't say where, and a member of the Royal Geographical Society. So, okay, great. Good for you, Norman. So anyway, old Norm, he's trudging through, walking around on the summit, just, taking in the sights and enjoying himself. Apparently hiking was something that he liked to do quite often. So he's doing that, and he starts to hear the crunching footsteps. He hears them, and another symptom of being near the gray man seems to be an overwhelming, like, sense of dread, a sense of fear, which this is quite common with a lot of what we'll call supernatural beings. They have a way of freaking us the fuck out, which is probably why we love them so much, because as humans, we may deny it, but we actually love being freaked the fuck out. I don't deny it. I love it. On the rare occasion I can find like a movie or something like that that freaks me the fuck out, I just love it. And, you know, side note, not many movies will do that for me, but I'm going to tell y'all, when I was a kid, My mom, she didn't really restrict what we watched. I mean, she was fine with me being in elementary school and like reading Stephen King books and watching horror movies and all that. So, we just did our thing. My mom, from past episodes, Leo's mom did what? Tortilla jail. You'll know just from that story that she was pretty chill, laid back person. Love her. Anyway, so one of the movies I saw when I was a kid that actually did succeed in freaking me the hell out is called In the Mouth of Madness, and it's got Sam Neill in it, and that movie is just wicked as hell, and it's got some monsters and stuff in it, but that's not actually what freaked me out. What freaked me out was there's this one scene where they're driving down the highway at night, and it looks like there is like no ground beneath them, like they're kind of just out in space, and space freaks me the fuck out. Like I actually intend on doing a little segment called Why I Hate, and then I'll go into a certain topic, and one of the topics I'm gonna talk about is why I hate space. But anyway, there's also this like creepy looking old man, like all in denim with like long white hair and black eyes, and he's like riding a damn bicycle next to the car on them in the highway, and that is what freaked me the hell out. I hated it and loved it simultaneously at the same damn time. So anyway, back to my original tale here. So these creatures somehow seem to be able to give people an overwhelming sense of dread. And he, Norman, old Norm, he's, walking through the mountains and everything, just kind of doing his own thing whenever he starts to hear the footsteps, and then he has that overwhelming sense of dread. And he does what any brave soul would do and nearly shits his pants and just takes off running. And that's a common theme. People just get really, really scared and, like, run away. Which, I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, if it's another human, okay, fight back. If it's an animal, fight back. If you must. But when you can't even see what it is that's seemingly chasing you, but you can hear it, that's got to be scary and freaky as hell. So no, I don't blame Mr. Norm Colley for getting terrified and running back down the summit. It took him, he was like 4 or 5 miles away from civilization, so he had to haul ass, and he said he was just like really, really scared. And he says that every few steps he took, he heard like a hard crunch and then another, as if someone was walking behind me, taking 3 or 4 steps at a time. For every one of his steps, it sounded like this thing was like walking, like a much further distance in one step than he could. So he, had the feeling that it was very large, very tall, and had a very wide leg span. He says, and quote, "I was seized with terror and took to my heels, staggering blindly among the boulders for 4 or 5 miles. There is something very strange about Bindui, and I will not go back there again." So this really scared old Norm. And he vowed to never go back because it put the fear into him, which honestly, that's pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. When people get, scared shitless by entities and everything, I sympathize, but I also think it's pretty funny because I do think there are forces in nature that try to keep humans away. And one of those best ways is to instill a sense of fear and dread in us, because we're kind of little titty babies and we run away at things like that when we can't explain what scares us and everything. And, it works pretty well. And this is a common theme with, Bigfoot as well. And I think that's kind of between what people say is, the hair and him being large and all that and taking such big steps and everything. I think that's why kind of people compare him to the American legends of Bigfoot and everything. But I don't think that's what this is. next time I run into old American Bigfoot, I will have to ask him. We don't see each other that much, but we're pals. You know, we're acquaintances. So I'll ask him next time I see him if he's related to Gray Man or if they even know each other. But I don't want to come off as like, oh, you know all the other cryptids just because you're a cryptid. You know that assuming that is kind of rude. You know, I mean, maybe they've never met. Maybe they don't even know about each other's existence. Or maybe, you know, the Bigfoot portal that everybody's convinced Bigfoot uses to travel. Maybe Gray Man uses that to travel too. Maybe Gray Man is Bigfoot and he just pops along between, like, you know, Scotland and America and like Siberia and shit. Who knows? I'm literally just making shit up right now. So I'm gonna use these pastels to kind of blend this fella. I may need to get a new hanky here soon. Mine is getting all colored up. Okay. So the next sighting, or well, it's not the next sighting. It's a guy that came forward after Norm Colley's account was published in the paper. This other fella comes forward named Hugh D. Welsh. And he's a climber, a mountain climber, rock climber, whatever. Some climber do it. Look, people, I'm short as shit. I climb all the time, but I don't climb mountains. I climb shelves at Walmart or whatever to, you know, get things I need. But I don't climb too terribly high because I am afraid of heights. So anyway, old Hugh, he is a climber, and he said him and his brother were hiking there in 1904 and heard slurring footsteps as if someone was walking through like water saturated gravel. And you know, I think we can all kind of picture in our heads what that sounds like. And both felt frequently conscious of something near and an eerie sense of apprehension. That's their words. So again, we have this theme where they can't see anything, but they can hear it, and it's scaring the shit out of them. Don't blame you, guys. Don't blame you. You know, this is exactly what it feels like to be a woman walking at night. You know, so take note, men. When you feel like there's something entity in the woods following you and scaring you, that's like walking home at night as a woman. So, I mean, not to laugh or anything, but, you know, men are like, ooh, that's a new and horrible feeling, and women are like, I feel that way literally every day. Anyway, I'm sorry, I went off on another tangent. Trying to make these little fellas pop off the page at you, because I feel like my camera isn't really picking it up. Let me see if I can get in closer and show you. Ooh, see, aren't those little fellas creepy? I love them. I love them. And so again, these two fellas, they hear it and they sense it, but they never see it. And that's really all you get from their accounts. So a lot of these accounts are not very detailed, but I feel like that's just a symptom of being lost to time. Now we're going to go forward again to 1945, and Peter Densham was doing rescue work during World War II in the mountains, and he reported hearing strange noises, a mist closing in on him, which I'm like, oh, God, it would be so cool if I, like, anytime I felt mad or upset or something, I could just have a cloud of mist, like, just form and either enclose me or the person I'm mad at. Ugh, God, I wish I had witch powers. Anyway. So he senses the mist is closing in on him, and then he's getting increasing pressure around his neck, which I don't know, they didn't go into this, so I don't know if this is like a strangling feeling, like he can physically feel it around his neck, or if this is like a inside his throat, he feels like he's sort of choking, like maybe the mist is choking like maybe smoke would or something. He didn't really go into that too much, but just know that he has a sensation of pressure around his neck, which honestly, like, that would be terrifying. Like, I don't know if that's like a fun little kink the gray man has, or if that really means like, hey, I'm gonna strangle the shit out of you if you don't get out of here. But you know, we can speculate wildly. And I'm doing a pretty bad job of coloring in the lines, but that's okay because I'm going to go through after I get done coloring these fellas in and put a little bit of mist and gray fog in here, which I think will be fun and we'll enjoy that. Yes, little guy in the corner. Don't get lonely. I'm going to color you too. You're going to be you're not going to be forgotten. All right. And then, so of course, old Peter, you know, like all the others, he gets scared and he flees before he sees anything. He's like, fuck this, I am out. Which, honestly, like, you know, if more people did that in horror movies, well, I guess it'd be less interesting because they would probably get away and, like, live to tell the tale, and then you wouldn't have the one survivor who's usually, like, a white girl at the end going like, oh my god, like they killed everyone. Anyway, I won't get into all that. So there's another fella named, okay, I'm going to try again with the last name. His name is Richard Frere, Frere. Wrote about his sense of a presence, utterly abstract but intensely real, and he heard an intensely high singing note a few years later in 1948. So that's another little characteristic a few people will mention, is that they hear like a really high singing note when they are experiencing this encounter with the gray man, Liath Mor. So I'll tell you about another encounter. This person, for whatever reason, probably because they didn't want to be made fun of, wanted to remain anonymous. But it says a camper on the mount said he awoke to an inescapable feeling of dread, and when he looked out of his tent, he saw a large figure with dark hair standing in front of the moon and like silhouetted by the moon. Okay. That sounds like, I don't know, like a Halloween commercial or something, but, you know, that's what he said, this anonymous person. So, you know, there's one other encounter. In 1943, Alexander Tunian spent a 10-day leave climbing in the Cairngorms. Again, that's the mountain range that Ben Dewey is in. And while he's out there one afternoon, he reached the summit of cairn of Ben Macdui, again, the second highest peak in Scotland, and a mist swirled across the Larrig Grue and enveloped the mountain. The atmosphere became dark and oppressive. Fierce, bitter wind whisked about, and an odd sound echoed through the mist. Again, here we're getting that, like, high-pitched singing note. The mist is closing in, and he's going to hear odd, loud footsteps through the mist. And he'll report seeing a large, strange shape loomed up, receded, came charging at him. Tunian pulled his revolver and fired 3 times, and it still charged. So he turned and ran back to Glenderry, which I'm assuming was a small town near the summit, near the mountain. So those are the encounters. That's it. That's all the encounters that I could find. Again, we've got like 2 people who kind of saw something. Everybody else heard something and sensed something, but they didn't see anything. So, but it seems like locals around there kind of had this tale going for a long, long time. So everybody sort of had like a vague description, and what they've talked about is a gray being, sometimes with hair, sometimes not, but very, very tall, with very long arms, and you know, the sense of dread, the footsteps, sometimes like a musical sound. One thing that I didn't ever see mentioned, which is quite often mentioned with American Bigfoot, is a horrendous smell. And nobody said anything about a smell. So, you know, maybe this dude takes a shower more often than the American Bigfoot does. So, let's get into possible explanations. Obviously, the first is hallucinations. A lot of people think that these are just people having weird hallucinations in the mountain range, which, I mean, totally possible. Totally possible. I'm using a paint pen, a silver paint pen, to go through and kind of give these guys some depth and dimension to their eyeballs. And I don't think you can see it from here, but I'll hold it up to the camera here in a minute. So yeah, hallucination is like the first explanation. Let's see, infrasound, which can be created by wind and can cause feelings of unease and anxiety. Okay. And then the broken specter optical illusion. Basically, a mountain specter, fog, sun, shadows, and other atmospheric conditions kind of culminate in the right way to make the human eye perceive something that isn't there. Alright. I mean, that's kind of been thrown around as the explanation for a lot of different shit. Okay. So here's my theory. And this is other people's theory too, but this is the one I like the most because it's just the most magical and the most whimsical, that this being does exist. And he doesn't want to hurt anybody, but he's a bit of a conservationist, and he knows how us humans tend to come along and ruin absolutely everything. And so his way of getting us off the mountain is to scare the shit out of us. He has no intentions, he, she, it, whatever, has no intentions of hurting anyone, but just wants to make sure that we aren't up there, you know, fucking up his mountain, which, you know, honestly, I can't blame him. I don't trust humans not to fuck it up either, so why should he? Because we're really, really good at fucking it up. And that he just does these harmless things. You can hear footsteps, fog swirling, musical notes, and that overwhelming sense of dread, just to drive us away, get us away. Like, you just stay away. As soon as you start to run away, he doesn't want to hurt you. And there's never been, as far as my research could tell, there's never been any encounters where anyone was hurt. No one's ever been physically harmed by this thing that I can tell. So I really think he's just a protector of the mountain, a protector of nature. And there's lots of Celtic tales of different, I'll call them magical beings, cryptids, things like that are strictly there to protect the nature from humans. Because, again, like I said, we ruin everything. We, you know, go into a space and we suck all the resources out. We change the landscape. We develop it. We live there. We fight there. We die there. And, you know, that changes the way nature is able to inhabit that space. And, you know, nature was there first, and it has every right to be there. So us humans are pretty bad about coming in and just taking over and not caring what sort of animals we displace or what kind of ecosystems we disturb. And I believe that Liath Mor is just there to prevent that from happening. And so far he's done a good job, because as far as I know, there's really not a whole lot going on up on this mountain. I'm trying to see if y'all can see the little eyeballs. Let me see if I can get a little closer. See? I used a little bit of silver paint pen, and it's hard to tell on camera, but it certainly... There we go. Yeah, now you can tell under the light that it sort of pops a little bit. Anyway. So I think this entity, like, I choose to believe that it exists. I like to believe that things beyond human comprehension exist. And I believe he's just a protector of the land, and he just doesn't want us coming along. He doesn't want us fucking it up like we do everything. And I fully believe that, you know, whoever comes onto his land, he's totally entitled to just scare the absolute shit out of him. I say keep it up, Liath Mor. You protect your mountain, and you make sure that none of us come along and build a stupid McMansion up there, or a resort, or some shit where we got a bunch of tourists playing golf or some crap like that, or a bunch of assholes hunting and, you know, ruining the way the ecosystem works and provides for the nature up there. Because, you know, there are places where we just simply have no right to be, and I think this is one of them. Like, we just need to leave it alone. I don't have a problem with people going up there and hiking and, you know, enjoying the space, but clearly he does. So maybe just, you know, maybe that's like his land, his property, and just stay off of it. Like, he's there to protect his fellow creatures and entities and the nature that resides there. And maybe we ought to just let him. Maybe every little space on Earth isn't meant for us. We know that about the oceans, clearly, because obviously if we were capable of going in there and doing what we wanted, we would, and we would screw it up for a lot of the inhabitants down there. And that should be the same for land, too, not just water. Maybe there are just certain places we shouldn't go, and we shouldn't feel entitled to, and we should leave nature to it. And I believe that when these entities like this come up and they intimidate and scare humans away, it's because we're not welcome there. And that's fine. We don't have to be entitled to every little inch of this planet. And it's okay to, like, leave it to nature, you know? I really do believe that. And Scotland, I've never been there, of course. I've seen pictures and things like that. And it looks just incredibly beautiful and pure, and let's leave it that way, you know? Obviously, the Scottish people that live there and have lived there for centuries, like, that's their home, and I think that they're welcome there. But I feel like when we have a bunch of, like, tourists just going in and invading a place, it changes the magic of that place, and not every little nook and cranny of the planet needs to be explored by all of us. And, you know, we can just let some places belong to themselves. So that's my little video for today. I'm sorry it's so short. I've got a longer episode coming up. I'll probably do it sometime this weekend or next week on my days off. I've got a very weird schedule going on right now. Once things settle down, I'll be able to do more videos. But this is just one I wanted to do really quick. I'm gonna do my next case. Actually, I don't know if it'll be my next. I'm waiting on a certain coloring book because I want to do Medusa. And even though I said before I'm not gonna always try to make the art match the story, this particular story, I want to do Medusa right because she's been done so wrong. So I am actually waiting on a specific coloring book that I got so that I can color a picture of Medusa while I tell you about her. But we'll get into all that in that particular episode. I've been writing up a couple of extra scripts for other videos I want to do just to kind of stay ahead, and that way whenever I am able to record on my afternoons off, I can come out and belt it out real quick for you. And so in that attempt to get ahead of my game a little bit, I came across the story of Liath Mor, and you know what, I thought he was cool and I wanted to tell y'all about him. And then I remembered that I had this little drawing again that I did some years ago, and I thought, you know what, that'll go along perfectly because it's not a whole lot of information that I could find, and so I needed a picture that I would kind of be able to finish in time to tell you all about him, because if I did something crazy detailed, it would be, you know, I would have nothing to talk about while I had a shitload of art to work on. And I kind of like to see if I can keep the art piece to the same standard of time as the tale is. But there's one more close-up look of my little gray men, even though they don't really match the description of the Scottish entity, it still, it worked. Anyway, so that's Leo the Lefty coming at you today for a little quick tale, and I hope you guys like it. Give me a like, a comment, a subscribe. Hey, if you're Scottish, or even if you're not, but you know more information about Liath Mor, lay it on me, man. I am so interested in this, but like I said, I couldn't really find a whole lot, and I would love to do a deep dive and go down a rabbit hole. But there's a lot of things that when they just pop up on the internet, I don't exactly trust them. But I would really love, you know, somebody who's actually from Scotland to come in and give me the what for, lay it on me, tell me everything. And I would even redo this episode again if I got more information, especially from somebody who actually lives there. Or if somebody, you know somebody, like say your grandpa or your, you know, great Aunt Mildred was up there or something like some years ago and they had an experience, tell me all about it. I would love it. So, yeah, I guess that's it for now. And I'll be seeing you guys soon with my next stories. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be doing Medusa next. I'm waiting on my coloring book to come in. And once that comes in, I'll do Medusa. But I've got a couple other things to talk about in the meantime. Should that coloring book take a while to get here, you never know. So, thanks for joining me today, and you know, give me a like, give me a comment, or a subscribe if you like this, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.